So recently I've been watching some videos on A&M going to the SEC. I've read a lot of blogs and opinions, etc. Heard a lot of it in my daily life. I live in Austin. I'm an Aggie. So, walking down the street, I'll get somebody's opinion on A&M going to the SEC. And I've really just grown tired of people constantly saying that it's a bad move for the university. It's a bad move for the state of Texas. It's a bad move. It's a bad move. It's a bad move. That's all you hear. Um, I disagree. Completely disagree. I think it's the best move the university's made in years. I mean, we have blundered some pretty big things lately, and probably not in the ways that you, the viewing public, would think. I mean, A&M has failed to maintain the identity that so many Aggies attribute to the university. That being the case, this is the first move in a while that finally says this has A&M pride written all over it. And not in the sense that we are so prideful that we need to get away from UT, but as the fact that A&M finally had enough pride to pull itself off the fucking ground and say we're tired of getting, shit kicked all over us. We get no respect. None. We don't get any respect in our own state. And when I say that, I mean the state as a whole. Last year, both A&M and UT baseball teams were going to the College World Series. I did a little study and watched a bunch of news footage from multiple sports segments on news outlets across the state. On average, A&M received less than half of the coverage that UT received for doing the same thing. They both achieved a super regional victory and were headed to the College World Series. Same achievement, you think that they would get the same coverage. Now, albeit there are only two places that this didn't hold true, and that was College Station and Midland. College Station being obvious why it had more coverage of A&M, and Midland, it's an oil-filled town, so it actually panders somewhat to A&M as well. Other than that, Houston, we didn't get as much coverage in Houston as UT, even though we're typically tied more to Houston than UT is. But that's just the way A&M gets treated in its own state. And it's really the reason that I feel so resentful at this point. I don't hate UT. I have long since stopped caring about UT strictly because UT isn't what it was. It isn't what it thinks it is. And I think that they're starting to get to a point where they're lacking identity. And they lack identity in the worst possible way is they think they have too much self-awareness when in actuality they have none. That being the case, they caused the whole rift in the beginning. I mean, they started the Longhorn Network, which all Longhorns that I talk to about, they just think that it's just kind of like A&M being pissed off about the Longhorn Network. They don't realize there were a lot of college football fans that were not happy about it. College sports fans were even more pissed off. And then when you boil it down to the fact that A&M sports have been rising in all other areas in football, which football we've been getting progressively better, but we haven't achieved any sort of real state of recognition since our 1998 conference championship and then subsequent Sugar Bowl loss, which that was about it. We haven't done much in that way since, but we've won a women's national basketball championship. We've won some equestrian national championships, multiple Big 12 championships in other sports, indoor and outdoor track and field championships. We've won a plethora of national championships in other sports. Now, when you consider the fact that football is the breadwinner and that the television rights to football games are generally all taken, especially for a university as large as UT, they aren't going to have a lot of football to show. So you have, 168 hours of TV that you have to fill a week on a network. You have maybe a 3-hour football game once a season on that network as per agreement. You have to start thinking, what else is going to fill that airwaves? What are you going to do? You're going to have a bunch of shows about UT. Not only a bunch of shows about UT, but broadcast other UT sports. And that's the problem that A&M had with it. That was the big problem, is you're not going after the sport that you so care about. No, you're going after the sport that we have been focusing on and we've been striving to get better in. Because we as a university, we try to make all of our programs equal and a well-represented, well-funded program. We work towards more of that idea. And UT doesn't. There's no way to really say it, but UT just doesn't. They don't care as much. I mean, the basketball team's been slipping, but nobody's really paid attention. I mean, I can remember when UT used to have a top 10, top 15 college basketball team every year. It was expected that they were going to run to the Sweet 16. Now they get knocked out in the first round, and people are just kind of like, oh, okay. They don't go to the College Baseball World Series this year. They haven't been doing well in baseball these past few years, and they used to be, Dish Falk used to be a hard ticket to come by, but now, not so much. Well, all these sports have been slipping over the past few years. Football, of course, it slipped, but the funding never has. That being the case, all the focus of this move has been on football, and like I've just stated, it's not about football. Not about football at all. We want a good football team. We're hugely prideful in our football, but at the same time, it's not our number one concern. It's not our number one priority, nor will it ever be. I mean, there are more things to life than a football game. There are more things to life than a football game. So, that being said, we have kind of accepted the fact that UT doesn't want to play us. They, again, tell me all the time that we're going to get our asses kicked in the SEC, and I've actually recently really started been turning that around on them and asking them questions that they can't really answer. The answers that they have, they don't want to admit because it makes UT look like a bunch of fucking assholes. When was the last time y'all played an SEC team? Oh, 2009 championship game where you got railroaded. So, oh yeah, and then you have to bring up the whole Colt McCoy got knocked out. That fact never seems to be left behind. But then last year, I mean, if you want to bring up people being out, Cyrus Gray and Christine Michael were out last year for the last Lone Star Showdown. Our top two running backs. The two-headed monster that tore back defenses up last year. But you don't hear us talk about that, do you? No. We accept it. We lost. Unfortunately, it wasn't the best way to lose, and it's not something that you can easily swallow considering the horrific call that occurred in that game. We accept it. We lost. We'll walk away. We'll be okay with it. Whatever. You, on the other hand, have not relinquished. I still hear it all the time. A&M going to the SEC. You're going to get slaughtered. You're going to get killed. Oh, why are y'all doing that? It's bad for business. So we're going to address that point. Business.